Nari's hands trembled as she stepped into the grand chamber. The massive hall stretched before her like a canyon carved from crystal and light. Hundreds of seats rose in perfect circles around a central platform, each one occupied by a delegate from a different world. Some looked like her own people with smooth skin and 2 arms. Others were completely alien, floating clouds of gas or creatures made of pure energy. The noise was overwhelming. Thousands of voices speaking in languages she had never heard before, all translated instantly into her mind by the neural implant every delegate received. She was young for an ambassador. Her people, the Velcros, had only discovered faster-than-light travel 3 years ago. Before that, they thought they were alone in the universe. Now Nari stood in a room with representatives from 847 different civilizations. It was too much to process. A guide led her to her assigned seat. It was small and tucked away in the outer ring, as befitting a newcomer species. Nari didn't mind. She was happy just to be here. As she sat down, she noticed something strange. Right next to the central platform, in the most prominent position in the entire chamber, sat an empty chair. It wasn't a simple chair. It was magnificent, made from dark wood that seemed to shift colors in the light. It had intricate carvings along the arms and back. A small plaque on the front read a single word in a language her implant translated instantly. Terra. Nari leaned toward the delegate sitting next to her, a being that looked like a large insect with too many eyes. "Excuse me," she whispered. "Why is that seat empty?" The insect delegate flinched. Its many eyes turned away from her. It said nothing. Confused, Nari tried asking the delegate on her other side. This one looked like a walking tree with bark-like skin. "Please, I'm new here. Can you tell me about that empty seat?" The tree being shook its branches nervously. "Don't ask about that," it said in a voice like wind through leaves. "Just don't." Now Nari was really curious. She looked around the chamber. Every delegate seemed to be carefully avoiding looking at the empty chair. It was like a wound in the center of the room that everyone pretended wasn't there. The council session began. For hours, Nari watched as delegates debated trade agreements and territorial disputes. Every issue seemed to take forever to resolve. Everyone had an opinion. Everyone wanted something. The whole process felt slow and complicated. During a break, Nari approached one of the senior staff members, a young man named Tai, who had helped her find her seat earlier. He looked nervous when she walked up to him. "I need to know about that empty seat," Nari said firmly. "Everyone is acting strange about it." Tai glanced around to make sure no one was listening. "You shouldn't ask about that. Especially not on your first day, but why? Who does it belong to?" Tai sighed. "It belongs to them. The humans. The people from Terra, which you call Earth." "I've never heard of Earth," Nari said. "Most people haven't. They keep to themselves. That seat has been empty for 200 years. 200 years. Why do you keep it if they never come?" Before Tai could answer, a deep voice spoke from behind them. "Because we dare not remove it." Nari turned to see an ancient creature standing there. It looked like it was made of living crystal, tall and thin, with facets that caught the light in strange ways. This was Elder Quan, one of the oldest members of the council. His species had been traveling the stars for thousands of years. "Elder Quan," Nari said respectfully, bowing her head. "I was just curious about the empty chair." "Curiosity about humans is dangerous," Quan said. His voice sounded like bells ringing. "But you deserve to know the basics. Walk with me." They walked through a side corridor away from the busy chamber. Quan moved slowly, as if each step required great thought. 200 years ago, we made first contact with humanity. They were a young species, barely capable of reaching their own moon. We did what we always do with new species. We invited them to join the council. "And they refused?" Nari asked. "Worse. They thanked us politely and said they would prefer to find their own path. At first, we thought it was pride. Young species often think they don't need help. We expected them to come back within a few years, begging to join after they realized how hard space travel really is. But they didn't." Quan stopped walking and turned his crystalline face toward her. "They didn't need to. Within 50 years, they had spread across their entire region of space. Within 100 years, they had technology we couldn't understand. Now 200 years later, they are the most advanced civilization in the known galaxy, and they still don't want our seat." Nari felt a chill run down her spine. If they're so advanced, why hasn't anyone heard of them? Because we don't talk about them. The council made an unofficial agreement long ago. We don't discuss Earth in public. We don't visit their territory. We don't interfere with them, and they don't interfere with us. That sounds like fear, Nari said. Quan's crystals seemed to dim. It is fear. Absolute fear. You want to know why we keep that seat? It's a reminder. Every day when we sit in this chamber and debate for hours about trivial matters, that empty chair reminds us that somewhere out there is a species that doesn't need this council. They don't need our trade routes. They don't need our protection. They don't need our knowledge or our resources. They are completely independent, and that frightens you, young one. This council survives because every species needs something from another species. The Velcros need our mining technology. The miners need someone else's food production. The food producers need protection from raiders. Everyone depends on everyone else. It creates stability. It creates peace, and humans need nothing. They want nothing. They simply exist out there beyond our understanding. That chair isn't empty because they forgot about us. It's empty because they chose to leave it empty. They don't need our counsel. They never did. That is what terrifies us most of all. Nari looked back toward the grand chamber where she could still see the empty chair through the doorway. It looked different now. Not like an absence, but like a statement. A quiet declaration of independence that the entire galaxy had to witness every single day. What are they doing out there? She asked quietly. Quan turned to leave, his ancient form shuffling back toward the chamber. He paused and looked back at her. That is an excellent question, and the answer is what keeps me awake at night. Nari couldn't sleep. She lay in her small quarters aboard the council station, staring at the ceiling. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw that empty chair. More than that, she saw the fear in Quan's ancient eyes when he talked about humanity. What could make a being who had lived for thousands of years so afraid? She needed answers. The next morning, Nari went looking for Tai, the young secretary who had spoken to her before. She found him in one of the administrative levels carrying a stack of data tablets. I need your help, Nari said directly. Tai nearly dropped his tablets. With what? I need to access the archives. The records about first contact with Earth. His face went pale. Those are restricted files. Very restricted. If anyone finds out I helped you, I could lose my position. I'm not asking you to break into anything, Nari said. I just need someone to show me how the archive system works. As an ambassador, I have access rights, don't I? Tai hesitated. Then he sighed. Technically, yes. New ambassadors get basic archive access, but nobody actually uses it to look up humanity files. Everyone just stays away from that subject. Then I'll be the first, Nari said firmly. 20 minutes later, they stood in a quiet corner of the massive archive level. Rows of terminals stretched into the distance, but this section was empty. Nobody came down here much anymore. Most delegates accessed information from their personal devices. These physical archives were old, dating back centuries. Tai showed her how to log in and navigate the system. I'll leave you to it, he said nervously. If anyone asks, I was just helping a new delegate learn the systems. That's part of my job. After he left, Nari began searching. She typed in Terra and Humanity and First Contact. The system processed for a moment, then displayed a list of files. Most were marked as restricted, but a few were accessible to her level. She opened the first one. It was a report from the initial scout ship that discovered Earth. The language was dry and technical. Subject species shows basic tool use. Limited space capability. Chemical rockets only. Technology level, pre-council standard. Recommendation, standard first contact protocol. Estimated time to council readiness, 1,000 years. Nari frowned. If humans were that primitive, what changed? She kept reading through the files. There were dozens of reports from various observation teams. All painted the same picture. Humanity was young, barely out of their own solar system, using slow and inefficient technology. Then she found a different kind of file. A video recording. The label said, Official response from Terra, Ambassador Jin regarding council invitation. Her hands shook as she played it. The hologram showed a human man. He looked young, maybe 30 years old in human terms, with dark hair and kind eyes. He wore simple clothes, nothing fancy. He smiled at the camera. Greetings to the Galactic Council, the man said. His voice was warm and friendly. My name is Jin, and I have the honor of speaking on behalf of humanity. We have received your generous invitation to join your council, and we are deeply grateful for the offer. The fact that you reached out to us, That you see potential in our young species means more than you know." Jin paused, his smile becoming a bit sad. "However, after much discussion and thought, we must respectfully decline your invitation. This is not a rejection of friendship or cooperation. We simply believe that humanity needs to find its own path forward. We need to make our own mistakes and discover our own solutions. Joining your council now would be like a child trying to run before learning to walk. We hope you understand. We wish you all peace and prosperity. Perhaps someday when we have grown and learned, we can meet again as equals. Until then, we will walk our own road. Thank you for your understanding." The recording ended. Nari sat back confused. That was it? A polite refusal? Nothing threatening or aggressive? Just a young species saying they wanted independence? Why would that terrify anyone? She kept digging through the files. Then she found something that made her blood run cold. A series of surveillance reports from 50 years after first contact. They were marked, "Urgent, Priority Alert, Terra Expansion." She opened them and began reading. The reports documented humanity's spread across the galaxy, but the speed was impossible. In just 50 years, humans had established colonies in hundreds of systems. They had ships that could cross the galaxy in days. They had technology that council scientists couldn't explain. One report caught her attention. It was written by a council military observer. Warning: Terra vessels observed moving without apparent propulsion. No energy signatures detected. Ships appear and disappear from scanning range instantly. Recommend extreme caution. Human technology exceeds our understanding by significant margin. Nari's hands were shaking now. She opened another file. This one from 75 years after first contact. The title made her stomach drop. Incident Report, Loss of Contact with 3 Council member states. She read quickly. 3 different civilizations, all powerful military empires, had decided to test humanity's borders. They sent fleets into human territory, claiming it for themselves. The Council had warned them not to, but they went anyway. They thought they could easily conquer the young human civilization. All 3 fleets vanished. Completely. No wreckage, no survivors, no evidence they ever existed. Then within 2 weeks, all 3 empires themselves vanished. Billions of people, hundreds of worlds, entire civilizations just gone. But here was the really terrifying part. The worlds weren't destroyed. They were empty. Cities intact. Infrastructure working perfectly. Food in refrigerators. Cars parked in driveways. Everything exactly as it had been, except every single person was gone. Nari heard footsteps behind her. She turned to see Tay standing there, his face worried. "You found the disappearances," he said quietly. It wasn't a question. "What happened to them?" Nari whispered. "Where did they go?" Tay sat down next to her. "Nobody knows. The council sent investigation teams. They found nothing, no clues, no evidence of violence, just empty cities. After a few months, the humans sent a message. Very simple. They said the aggressive species had been relocated to empty worlds far from anyone else, where they couldn't hurt anyone. They said those species were being given a chance to learn to live peacefully. Relocated? How is that even possible? That's the question that keeps the council awake at night, Tay said. Humans moved billions of people across the galaxy. Not just moved them, but did it so carefully that nobody was hurt. No one died. They just woke up one day on a different planet. Can you imagine the level of technology needed to do that? Nari's mind was reeling. And the council just accepted this? What choice did we have? The humans proved they could move entire civilizations without anyone noticing until it was done. They proved they could reach into the heart of any empire and do whatever they wanted. But they also proved they didn't want to conquer or destroy. They just wanted to be left alone. So the council made a deal, Nari said, understanding dawning. Don't bother them and they won't bother us. Exactly. That empty chair? It's not an invitation anymore. It's a reminder. A warning. Don't mess with humanity. Nari looked at the file still displayed on her screen. Reports of impossible technology, of power beyond understanding, of a species that had gone from primitive to godlike in less than a century. What are they doing now? She asked. Tay stood up to leave. That's the thing. Nobody knows. They don't talk to us. They don't trade with us. They exist out there somewhere doing whatever they want. And that's the scariest part of all. 3 days later, Nari made a decision that would change everything. She was going to visit the empty worlds, the ones where the vanished empires used to live. Elder Quan had specifically told her not to. Tay had warned her it was dangerous. Every instinct told her to stay away. But she had to see for herself. She took a small shuttle from the council station, telling everyone she was visiting a nearby nebula for personal research. It wasn't a complete lie. The closest of the empty territories was only 3 days away by normal travel. The system had once belonged to a species called the Mordak. According to records, they had been aggressive and militaristic, always looking to expand their empire. They had attacked human territory 150 years ago. Within 2 weeks, every Mordak in the galaxy had vanished. The Council had quarantined their former worlds, marking them as off-limits. But as Nari's shuttle emerged from faster-than-light travel, she saw something impossible. The planets below weren't empty. They were full of life. Cities glowed in the darkness. Ships moved between worlds. There was even radio chatter filling the communication channels. She landed at what had once been the Mordak capital city. As her shuttle touched down at a public landing pad, she saw people walking around. Not Mordak, different species. Dozens of them all living together. Markets bustled with activity. Children of various alien species played in parks. It looked like a normal, thriving world. A woman approached her shuttle as Nari stepped out. She looked similar to Nari's own species, with 2 arms and legs, but her skin had a slight green tint. She smiled warmly. "Welcome," the woman said in perfect galactic common. "We don't get many visitors from the council." "I'm Hai. I'm one of the settlement coordinators here." "Settlement?" Nari asked. "I thought these worlds were abandoned." Hay laughed. "That's what the council wants to believe. Come, let me show you around. You look confused." Everyone is confused when they first arrive. They walked through the city. It was beautiful. The Mordak had built massive towers of dark metal, but someone had softened them with gardens and green spaces. Everywhere Nari looked, she saw different species working together, living together. "What happened here?" Nari finally asked. "Where are the Mordak?" His expression became serious. "I was actually here when it happened. I wasn't living here then. I was a refugee. My homeworld was destroyed in a war, and I was on a ship trying to find somewhere safe to go. We were passing through this system when everything changed." She led Nari to a cafe and they sat down. The server was a being made of blue energy, who brought them drinks without speaking. "It was night," Hay continued. "I was sleeping in the refugee ship. I woke up because everything was too quiet. The Mordak had very strict traffic control. There were always military ships everywhere, always scanning, always threatening. But suddenly there was nothing. Complete silence. What did you do?" "We scanned the planet. Empty. We thought maybe there was a disease or something. We almost left. But then we received a message. It just appeared on our communications system. No source, no sender identification. It said these worlds are now free. They are offered to any who seek peace. Come and build something better." Nari's hands trembled around her drink. "The humans. Yes, we didn't know who they were at first. We sent scouts down to the surface. The cities were intact. Power still running. Food and storage. Everything working perfectly. Just no people. It was eerie, but it was also an opportunity. We were refugees with nowhere to go. Here were entire worlds ready to live on. So you just moved in? Not just us." The message went out to refugees all over the galaxy. Ships started arriving. Different species, all of us looking for a home. We expected fights over territory, but something strange happened. Whenever there was about to be a conflict, a human would appear. Appear? From where? Hay shook her head in wonder. Just appear. One moment there would be empty space, the next moment a human would be standing there. They didn't threaten anyone. They would just talk to both sides, help us understand each other, find solutions. Then they would disappear again. That's impossible. Nobody can just appear and disappear. I've seen it dozens of times over the years. The humans are still here watching over us. Not controlling us, just making sure we don't destroy ourselves. They're like quiet guardians. As if on cue, Nari felt a presence behind her. She turned to see a human man standing there. He hadn't walked up. He was just there. He looked ordinary, wearing simple clothes with dark hair and gentle eyes. "Hello, Nari," he said softly. "I'm Wu, I've been expecting you." Nari jumped to her feet. "How do you know my name? How did you get here?" "We know everyone who enters our areas of influence," Wu said. He pulled up a chair and sat down as if they were old friends. And as for how I got here, let's just say we've solved some of the problems with distance that others still struggle with. You moved them, Nari said, her voice shaking. Billions of people. You moved entire civilizations, we relocated them. Wu corrected gently. The Mordak, the Kresh, and the Valtor. 3 empires that thought they could conquer us. We gave them a different option. We moved them to empty worlds far from anyone they could hurt. Worlds with resources and room to grow. We gave them a chance to start over. Without asking them? They attacked us without asking us, Wu said, his voice still calm. We could have destroyed them. Many species would have. Instead, we removed them from the situation. No one died. No one was hurt. They woke up on new worlds with everything they needed to survive. We even left them messages explaining what happened and why. And then you just gave these worlds away? We don't need them, Wu said simply. We have everything we need. But there are millions of refugees in this galaxy. People fleeing wars, disasters, persecution. Why let these beautiful worlds sit empty when they could be homes? We offered them to anyone who would come in peace and build something better than what was here before. Nari sat back down, her mind spinning. The Council is terrified of you. We know, Wu said sadly. That's why we stay away. We don't want to frighten anyone. We just want to help where we can and be left alone the rest of the time. But why? Why do all this? What do you want? Wu smiled. We don't want anything. That's what the Council can't understand. We don't want to rule. We don't want to conquer. We don't want to control. We simply want to help where we can and let everyone find their own path. Is that so hard to believe? For the Council? Yes. Everything there is about power and control and who owes what to whom. Exactly, Wu said. That's why we didn't join. We don't conquer. We don't destroy. We simply remove obstacles and create opportunities. The Council fears this more than any weapon because they can't understand it. Power without the desire to rule is incomprehensible to them. He stood up. Come, let me show you what else is possible when you stop thinking like the Council. Wu led Nari to a shuttle that looked nothing like any spacecraft she had ever seen. It was smooth and white with no visible engines or windows. When she touched it, the surface felt warm, almost alive. Where are we going? She asked as they stepped inside. The interior was simple but comfortable, with seats that seemed to form themselves around her body. Somewhere no Council representative has ever been invited, Wu said. One of our research stations. We want you to understand what humanity has become. Maybe then the Council will stop being so afraid. The ship moved without any sense of acceleration. One moment they were on the planet, the next moment they were in deep space. Nari looked out through what she thought was a window but realized was actually some kind of display showing the outside. Stars blurred past them at impossible speeds. This is impossible, Nari whispered. You're moving faster than light, but there's no distortion. No time dilation. How? We're not moving through space, Wu explained. We're folding it. Think of it like stepping from one room to another instead of walking down a long hallway. The distance doesn't change. We just change our relationship to it. Before Nari could ask more questions, they stopped. A massive structure floated in the void ahead of them. It looked like a crystal flower, each petal a different color, rotating slowly around a central core that glowed with soft light. Welcome to Research Station Harmony, Wu said, one of our smaller facilities. We have 347 people working here right now, studying everything from quantum mechanics to poetry. They docked smoothly and walked through corridors that seemed to glow with their own light. Nari saw humans working at consoles, conducting experiments, talking and laughing together. It all seemed so normal, yet everything around her defied the laws of physics as she understood them. Wu brought her to a large room filled with strange equipment. A woman looked up from her work and smiled. She was older than Wu, with gray hair and laugh lines around her eyes. This is Day, Wu said. She leads our fundamental research division. Day, this is Ambassador Nari from the Velcros representing the Galactic Council. I know who she is, Day said warmly. We've been watching her progress with interest. Come, sit. You must have 1,000 questions. Nari sat in a chair that formed itself to fit her perfectly. I don't even know where to start. How did you do all this? 200 years ago, you were barely reaching your own moon. Now you can move entire civilizations across the galaxy. What happened? Dee laughed. What happened is we stopped thinking like everyone else. The Council species, all of them, they approach problems the same way. They build on existing technology. They improve what already exists. Very incremental. Very safe. And humans? We asked different questions. When the council showed us their faster-than-light drives, they expected us to study them and try to copy them. Instead, we asked why space had to be traveled through at all. Why not just change our position in space directly? That's not possible, Nari said automatically. That's what everyone said. But we tried anyway. It took us 40 years, but we figured it out. Quantum positioning. We can move anything anywhere instantly. A person, a ship, a planet if we wanted to. Nari's mind reeled. That's how you moved the three empires. Exactly. We didn't destroy them or fight them. We just moved them. Every person, every pet, every possession all moved safely to new worlds. It took a lot of energy and coordination, but we did it without hurting anyone. Day walked over to a console and pulled up some kind of display. It showed equations that made Nari's eyes hurt to look at. That's just the beginning. We've solved matter conversion. We can turn energy into any type of matter we need. We've solved the aging problem. Our bodies can be repaired at the cellular level indefinitely. We've even solved consciousness transfer. Consciousness transfer? Nari asked weakly. Death is optional for us now, Wu said quietly. We can back up our minds, our memories, our entire consciousness. If our body dies, we can be restored into a new one. Jin, the ambassador you saw in that old recording? He's still alive. Still working. Over 300 years old and still going strong. Nari felt dizzy. This is impossible. All of this. How did you do it so fast? We didn't have the council slowing us down, Day said bluntly. Do you know how long it takes the council to approve a new technology? Decades, sometimes centuries. Everyone has to debate it. Everyone has to make sure it doesn't upset the balance of power. Everyone has to get their share of the profits. We don't work that way, Wu added. When someone has an idea, we try it. If it works, we share it freely. No patents, no trade secrets, no political games. Just pure advancement. A younger human entered the room carrying a data pad. She had short black hair and moved with quick energy. Sorry to interrupt. I'm Sue. I work in historical documentation. Ambassador Nari, I've been recording everything happening in the former Mordak territories. Would you like to see what happened to them? The ones we relocated? Nari nodded, unable to speak. Sue pulled up a holographic display showing a planet. This is where we moved the Mordak. A beautiful world with oceans and forests. We left them with technology appropriate to their development level. Not too advanced, but enough to thrive. The display showed cities, ships, farms. They're doing well, Sue continued. At first they were angry, of course, confused. But we left them detailed explanations. We told them they had attacked us and we had defended ourselves without killing anyone. We told them they now had a chance to start fresh without the militaristic culture that had defined them before. And they just accepted it? Nari asked after a few years. Some of them tried to build weapons and come back. We moved those individuals to a different area. Most of them eventually realized they had been given a gift. A new start. Now their civilization is actually thriving in ways it never did before. Do you watch them? Nari asked. Control them? We check in occasionally, Sue said. Make sure they're okay. But we don't interfere. They're free to develop however they want. That's the whole point. Nari turned back to Day. Why are you showing me all this? Why tell me your secrets? Because they're not secrets, Day said. We'd share all of this technology with anyone who asked. The council has never asked. They're too afraid of what it might mean, too afraid of losing control. You could destroy the entire council economic system, Nari said. If you can create matter from energy, if you can move things instantly, then all of the trade routes and resource control that keeps the council together becomes meaningless. Exactly, Day said. That's why they fear us. We represent the end of their way of life, not through conquest or war, but through simple advancement. We've reached post-scarcity. We don't need to fight over resources because we can make whatever we need. We don't need to control territory because we can be anywhere instantly. So why don't you join the council and help them? Show them how to achieve what you have? Wu shook his head. We tried. After first contact, we sent messages offering to share our discoveries. The council rejected them. They said our technology was too dangerous, too destabilizing. What they really meant was it would threaten the power structures they had spent thousands of years building. Your council debates for decades about helping dying civilizations, Day said, her voice hard. While they debate, we just help. We've quietly saved 47 different species from extinction in the last century, species the Council knew about but couldn't agree on how to help because of political considerations. We don't need a seat at their table, Wu said, because we're too busy actually making a difference in the galaxy. That empty chair? It's not a rejection of cooperation. It's a rejection of the Council's slow, political way of doing things. We have real work to do. Nari sat in silence, her entire worldview crumbling around her. Everything she had believed about the Council, about the galaxy, about how civilization should work, was being torn apart by simple truth. Humanity hadn't just advanced beyond the Council. They had transcended the very need for it. When Nari returned to the Council station, she walked through the corridors like a ghost. Everything looked different now. The grand architecture that once impressed her now seemed hollow. The busy delegates rushing between meetings now looked like children playing at politics, while the real universe moved on without them. She had been gone for 10 days. Officially, she had been sick and confined to her quarters. Tay had covered for her, filing false medical reports. But now she was back and she had a choice to make. She could stay silent about what she had learned, or she could force the Council to face the truth. She chose truth. The next Council session was routine. Debates about trade routes, arguments about mining rights, the usual endless discussions that went nowhere. Nari sat in her small seat and waited for the right moment. When there was a pause in the proceedings, she stood up. "I have a question," she said loudly. Her voice echoed through the chamber. Delegates turned to look at her, surprised. New ambassadors rarely spoke in full sessions. The Council speaker, an ancient being that looked like a floating jellyfish, gestured for her to continue. "Ambassador Nari of the Velcros, you may speak." "I want to know about the empty chair," Nari said. "I want to know the real reason humanity refuses to join this Council." The chamber fell silent. It was the kind of silence that comes from collective fear. Hundreds of delegates suddenly found reasons to look at their datapads or adjust their translation devices. "That is not an appropriate topic," the speaker said nervously. "We have important business to attend to." "What business?" Nari demanded. "We've been debating the same trade route for 3 months. Meanwhile, humanity has technology that could solve half the problems in this galaxy, and we refuse to even talk about them. Why?" Elder Quan's crystalline form rose from his seat. "Ambassador Nari, please sit down. You don't understand what you're asking." "I understand perfectly," Nari said. "I've been to the empty territories. I've seen what humans can do. I've visited their research stations. I know the truth." The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted questions. Security officers moved toward Nari. The speaker tried to restore order by dimming the lights and activating an attention signal. "Order," the speaker shouted. "This session is suspended. Ambassador Nari will report to the Council elders immediately for debriefing." 2 hours later, Nari sat in a small room with 5 of the Council's most senior members. Elder Quan was there, along with 4 others she recognized from historical records. These were the beings who really ran the Council, the ones who made the important decisions behind closed doors. One of them, a being that looked like a mass of tentacles with too many eyes, spoke first. "What exactly did you do, Ambassador? And please be honest." "We will find out anyway." Nari told them everything. The archives, the trip to the former Mordak territories, meeting Wu and He, the research station, Day's explanations about human technology. She left out no details. When she finished, the elders sat in silence. "You have violated numerous protocols," one of them said finally. "Visiting restricted space, making contact with humans without authorization, potentially compromising Council security." "Security from what?" Nari asked. "The humans aren't a threat. They've never attacked anyone who didn't attack them first. They're not interested in controlling anyone." "That's exactly the threat," Quan said quietly. All eyes turned to him. "You still don't understand, do you? Let me explain something about the Council. This organization isn't about cooperation. It's about control. It's about maintaining a careful balance of power where everyone needs everyone else." Another elder, a military commander named Hyun, who looked like a being made of living metal, nodded. "The Council survives because of interdependence. My species has the best weapons. Another species has the best ships. Another controls key resources. We all depend on each other, which means none of us can act independently. It creates stability." "Forced stability," Nari said. "Necessary stability," Hyun corrected. Before the Council, the galaxy was in constant war. Species fought over resources. Empires rose and fell. Billions died. The Council ended that by making everyone dependent on everyone else. No one can afford to fight when it means losing access to critical resources or technology. And humanity threatens this system, Nari said. Understanding dawning. They don't just threaten it, another elder said. This was Yuri, an economic minister who looked like a cloud of glowing particles. They make it completely obsolete. If their technology becomes widespread, the entire council economy collapses. Matter conversion means no need for resource extraction or trade. Instant transport means no need for shipping lanes or space stations. Unlimited energy means no need for fuel markets. In other words, Quan said, humanity achieved what every civilization supposedly wants, total independence. And that independence terrifies us because it reveals that our entire system is built on artificial scarcity and controlled dependence. We've tried to stop them, Hyun said quietly. You should know this. 15 assassination attempts on human leaders over the last century. All failed. We still don't know how. The assassins just vanished. We found them later, alive and unharmed on empty planets with notes thanking them for trying and suggesting they find less violent career paths. We ran military simulations, Hyun continued. Hundreds of them. Every scenario where we try to force humanity to cooperate with us, every simulation ends the same way. We lose. Not because they destroy us, but because they simply remove our ability to threaten them. They can move our fleets anywhere they want. They can shut down our weapon systems. They can relocate our entire populations if they choose to. And they choose not to, Nari said. That's what makes it worse, Yuri said. If they were conquerors, we could understand them. If they wanted to rule us, at least it would make sense. But they don't want anything from us. They've achieved post-scarcity. They have everything they need. They could crush us, and instead they just ignore us. Do you know what it's like, Quan asked, to spend thousands of years building a civilization, a government, a way of life, only to discover that a species barely 2 centuries old has made it all irrelevant? To know that everything we've worked for, all our politics and trade agreements and careful balancing of power means nothing to beings who have transcended such concerns. So you keep the chair empty, Nari said. As a reminder. As a warning, Quan corrected. Every day that empty chair reminds us that somewhere out there is a species that doesn't need us. That has solved problems we consider impossible. That could end our way of life with a thought but chooses not to because they simply don't care enough to bother. That's the most terrifying thing in the universe, Hyun said. Not an enemy who wants to destroy you, but someone so far beyond you that you're not even worth their attention. Nari stood up. You're wrong. I spoke to them. They do care. They've saved 47 species from extinction. They've given homes to millions of refugees. They're helping people across the galaxy every day. They just refuse to do it your way, through committees and debates and political favors. Which makes them even more dangerous, Yuri said. If they were doing nothing, we could ignore them. But they're actively helping species achieve independence, teaching them to think differently. Every civilization they help becomes less dependent on the Council. They're dismantling our system one species at a time, and they're doing it by making life better for people. How do you fight that? Quan asked. How do you fight someone who defeats you by helping others? By making the galaxy a better place? You can't. All you can do is watch your entire civilization become obsolete and hope they don't decide to accelerate the process. What will you do with me? Nari asked. The elders looked at each other. Finally, Quan spoke. Nothing. What could we do? Punish you for learning the truth? That would only make others more curious. Besides, you've already been invited to Earth itself. The humans sent a message while you were on your way back here. They want you to visit their home world. Nari's breath caught. Earth? No council representative has ever been invited there. No, Quan said. You'll be the first. Perhaps they want to send us a message through you. Perhaps they want to formally explain why they reject our council. Or perhaps they simply like you and want to show you their world, with humans who can say. Will you go? Hyun asked. Nari thought about the empty chair, about Wu's kind eyes and Day's patient explanations, about humans who could reshape the galaxy but chose instead to help it heal, about a species that frightened the council not through strength but through transcendence. Yes, she said, I'll go, and when I come back I'm going to tell everyone what I learned. The truth about humans. The truth about our council. Everything. This galaxy deserves to know that there's another way to live. A better way. The elders said nothing. What could they say? The truth was already spreading, slowly but inevitably, like dawn breaking across the galaxy, and all they could do was watch their carefully constructed world of interdependence crumble in the light of humanity's simple, terrifying freedom.